All right, so we'll do the next Mamer, Biur Hanal. This is the 16th Mamer in the Parshas Bamidbar. And this is a Biur al B'Shah Shekdimu on the previous Mamer that we learned. He's going to bring out from the Kabbalah some of the bases that we learned before, that Torah and mitzvahs, he spoke over there, that Torah comes from a higher place, even the mitzvah. Torah is the dam, and the mitzvahs are the vehicle. And we also spoke about that Seif Maise b'machshava techila, that the end of the Maise of Hashem comes down first in machshava, which is the level of chokhmah. Let's see inside. Hine shoyrish inyan haniskar le'il, the root of this matter that was mentioned earlier. Bepirush, as we explained, this is in the davening in the Chadoidi. Soif Maaseh b'machshava techila, that what happens in the end of the Maaseh comes in machshava first. So he says like this: Shebechinas chokhmah ilah, what is called the Soif Maaseh, that the level of chokhmah ilah is the chokhmah of Atzilus, who Soif Maaseh shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the end of the Maaseh of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's called the chokhmah of Atzilus. Lower than that is not even Maaseh Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but Chokhmah Atzilus is called the Maaseh Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kulon b'Chokhmah Asiso, the Chokhmah is considered the Asi of Hashem. So this Maaseh, the level of Chokhmah, is b'Machshava Tchila. So he says what it means, Pirush. It comes first from Machshava, Pirush. What it means is like this: Kisoif Hislapshus Radlo. Radlo means Reisha de Lois Yada. That's a level in the Ein Sof, in Keser, which is called Radlo, Reisha de Lois Yada. Reisha de Lois Yada literally means a head that is not known. It's an unknown, it's beyond. So the end of where does Radlo, the Reisha de Lois Yada, where does it come down? Ubechokhmah de Atzilus. In Chokhmah de Atzilus. Radlo is the Maaseh, close to the Maaseh. So the Radlo is the Machshava. So the Radlo comes into Maaseh, into the level of Chokhmah Atzilus. He uses Kabbalic terms here, as written in Chaim Shar Mem Zayin Peri Gimel, and Vishar Beis Madura Basra in Peri Aleph and Peri Gimel. In the Madura Basra, in the second version, it's in Gate 2. Chapter 1 and 3. It's brought down also in the Tanya in the 35th chapter in Nagor. So V'hinei Radlo, that's what gets, that is Nimshach, that's the level of Machshava that comes down to Chokhmah. Shenimshach min Malchus Da'ak. That comes from the level of Malchus of Ak. Odom Kadmin. Again, that's the level of in Keser, Chitzonius HaKeser. It's called the Odom Kadmon. So over there, K'meshe Kosuv, B'prez Chaim B'Kavonis, Baruch Sha'omar, B'hoya Ha'olam. That what does it mean? Blessed is that he says, and the world was created. So, what is the I'm sorry. So Radlo, that's called the Mamer. That's the when Hashem says and created the world, as he says, Baruch Sha'omar v'hoya ha'olam. That what does it mean hoya ha'olam? That's Radlo. So that's the level of Reisha Lo Yisyada. Mavur li'il. So before we explained in the previous Mamer, the Mamer Vasi HaKolach, that saying, and when he said that he did, that's really one. So V'zeu, and this is what he's saying, Soif Maaseh, the end of the Maaseh, the end of the Mamer, the end of the Radlo, Pirush, Soif Yislapshus B'chinas Radlo, is where Soif Maaseh is b'machshava tchila u'b'chokhmah. Hanikra machshava. That is called machshava. So basically, in the Oishas Kabbalah, you have Radlo dressing up the level of Adam Kadmon, the Reshad Lo Yisyada, from Malchus the Ak, dressing up into the level of Chachma. This is Machshavat Chila. Ba'ayim b'Migdash Melech b'Pirush HaZoyar. And look at the Migdash Melech in the explaining the Zohar in Bereshit, it says like this. After that point, which means after the point of Chochmah, Chochmah is the last point. That is the Soif Maisa. The end of it is Lo Yisyada Klal. Then Hashem is not known at all. That's not. It only goes up to Chochmah. And then from Chochmah Mispashet B'toich, Eima v'Zov v'Nukva. Then Chochmah expands into Bina, into Eima, and into Zov v'Nukva. So basically, that's why is the Soif Maisa, the end of Radlo, is in the Machshava, is in the level of Chochmah. Okay. So what is the Inyan HaTorah Mitzvahs? So what is in Torah Mitzvahs? Where do Torah Mitzvahs come from? The Shoresh of Torah Mitzvahs. So Hine, that's it says in the Pasuk Eliyahu, it says Kimaya the Ashkili Lona. It is like water that waters the tree. So you have the tree grows through water. The trees are considered to be the midos in Atzilus. Those are the trees. And you have the water that waters the trees, makes them grow. What is that? Hainu. Hey chasodim d'zo. Those are the 5 chesed of zo. You have 5 chesed of zo, and then you have 5 gvuras. So the hey chasodim d'zo, the 5 chasodim of zo, hamagdilim esakilim, they make the kalim grow. Umehem shoresh ramach mitzvah say. That's where the positive 148 mitzvahs come. They come from the level of midas through the water that waters them. B'shoresh ha'hei chasodim. What is the root? Where hei chasodim come from? The hei chasodim of zo. Where do they come from? Umichivarta de galgalta. That comes from the white part of the skull of the circle. The Gulgoilus is that surrounds in the Odom Kadmon. So we're talking about the Odom Kadmon in Ak. There is the Chivarta of the Galgalta. V'shoyre Shorsham, and what's the root from that root? Umechesed Atik, that goes from Chesed of Atik. Chesed of Atik to Chavarta the Galgalta of Odom Kadmon to the Hei Chasodim of Zo of Atzilus. That's as far as the mitzvahs say come from there. V'shasal lo yisaseh. They come hein mehei gvuras of Zo. They come from the 5 gvuras of Zo, of Zed Ampin, of the midas of Atzilus. V'shoyre Shorsham, and what's the root for their root? That comes from the gvura da Atik. That comes from the level of gvura of Atik. So mitzvahs basically come from chesed, come from gvura. In Atik itself, they come already from the midas, from the gvura and from chesed. But v'shoresh haTorah, where does Torah come from? That comes from the hidden moyach, which would be shemishom, which would be a higher level, because this is not midas, this is remech stimo. Shemishom shoresh hasayris. Remech stimo, because here, I guess, comes from the head, the Gulgalta, Shom shoresh hasayris, the Gulgalta. There is the hears of the Gulgoilas, those are the halachas. But the Moiches Timoah, the brain, is where the hair comes from. So like the hair from the head would come from the Moiches Timoah. It's all words of Kabbalah, the way it goes. So what's the difference between whether the Torah comes from the brain or the mitzvahs that come from Chivarta, the Golgalta, they come from the skull. The difference is because the brain is an inner organ of the person, whereas the skull is an external, it's outside. In the Golgalta, Golgalta, we talk about skull, that's the external part of Kesef. And the mitzvahs come from there, as we talked about the Sheder Shorshim, the way they come from Keser, Mahalav Nunis Shebein HaSayros. They come from the white that is in between the hair. And when they come down from there, into the Keser of Zeir Ampin, which would be in Zeir Ampin of Atzilus, Nasim Tariag Orchen Chulu, then they become already 613 passageways. That's why we have all the mitzvahs, 630 mitzvahs. The Tariag Orchin the Polik Bizot to the 613 directions, passageways, which are split in Zoh. So that is because they come from the Golgolas, they come from the Chitzonis. Aval Torah Nimshcha Meiches Timo, but Torah comes from the brain, the hidden Meiches Timo of Keser of Adam Kadmon Shubchinas Pnimi. That's an inner organ. That's an inner. Ainu Chochma Shabi Keser. That is the Chochma of Keser versus the Gulgoylus. Chochma Shabi Keser. Asher Chochma he Bchinas Pnimis. Chochma is an inner. And then we say Ube Chochma is Beriru. And then what happens is that within Chochma they sort it out. You sort out Levarer because the Torah sorts out Levarer Ma'u Mutar Ma'u Osir. And that's to figure out what is permissible and what is prohibited. That is higher than the mitzvah Shat Kelim. Again, before also they're going to say the example, he says Torah is on a higher level than the mitzvahs because the Torah sort of organizes the mitzvahs. It says the mitzvahs is like a vessel that you have in your house. So you have the different furnishings in the house inside. And then the Balabas comes and puts this in this place and this in this place, everything in the place where it belongs. So that's the Balabas controls and takes care of where the furnishings go. So the mitzvahs are like, those are the furnishings. That brings down the Insof, everything else, the Amshachas. But who organizes it tells you what's a mitzvah, what's not, where it goes, where it belongs, how to do it. That's the Torah. That's why the Torah is higher because it organizes the mitzvahs. Commercial Balabais. So it'd be like the example of a Balabos. That he instructs which place Yamidu HaKeli, where you should place the Keli. So the fact that he tells you where to put it, Harehu Moshel ala Keli, so that he is dominant over the Keli. And he places it in the place that he wishes to. So the owner is the one that's in charge. Say, for example, the mitzvah sukkah. The mitzvah sukkah. That is, what does sukkah do? It brings down the makifim of ema. But that's what sukkah does. But who determines how the sukkah should be, how the sukkah can be mamshich? But when you study the Torah, how and what the sukkah needs to be, that first of all, it can't be no less than 7 tvachim by 7 tvachim. And also, it can't be beyond 20 amas. And if you don't do it so, it's not a mitzvah, then it would not be a mitzvah. If you do it not the proper way, cloud. So that is who dominates that. Zehu hamamshola v'hatzivui ala mitzvah. That's the dominating on the mitzvah. That's the dominance and the command of the mitzvah. That's like a balabos who instructs how the keli should stand. So that means that that's in charge, that's higher because he controls and tells you how things should be. So in the lashon of the Kabbalah is butzino de karduniso. That's like a measuring stick. It's called a butzino de karduniso, which is kavamida. That's a measuring stick. That measures how the building should be. That comes from the level of Moiches Timor, like we said. In the Moiches Timor, you have the Gvura of Atik. Again, Moiches Timor, we said before, that's in Arich. But that you have the Gvura of Atik in that Moiches Timor, because that's the measuring for Mamer Kavamida. And that is the saying of the Kavamida, the measuring how much it should come. So, Inyan, Bereshis Nami Maimerhu. And this is what we say that Bereshis is also a Maimer, meaning a Maimer that's also a measuring, which means Bereshis, which is Chochmah. And that's the measuring that tells us all the halachas through the Chochmah, through Torah, through the Moiches Timor. Behind Maimer Kavamida, what does it mean? What Maimer is this? That's the measuring stick. Mishom, Umoker HaTorah, and the source of Torah comes from there. Shemoided Eich Yiyu Asiyas HaMitzvahs, that you measure how the mitzvah should be done. V'ayim HaShekosu Me'inyan Zeh B'Biur Apostle Kosev Baruch Hu. There. Zoh Zois HaTorah Odom. So this is also why the pasuk says that Zois HaTorah Odom, that Torah is Odom. Odom is like dam, olive dam. Ki hadam hu hanefesh. When we talk about blood, blood is the soul. That's the inner. That gives the life. But when you have the water that waters the trees, so the mitzvahs are considered. They water the tree. The hechsodim, the gevuras we said before. But the dam is the soul. That's the essence of it. Another interpretation is said from Odom Adam Elyon, that Odom is similar to the Supreme. The Torah brings down from the hidden of all hidden, the level of Torah. That's the dam. It's the Elyon. Brings down of the hidden of the rotzen of all Ruchsonos, Machshava Agduma, the earliest thoughts of the word. V'lochein Matan Torah b'Shavuos, because Shavuos is the time of that his galus of Machshava Agduma. He's going to say now. Lochem Matan Torah b'Shavuos. That's why it's b'Shavuos. He's going to say, Kihine Gimel Regolim, the 3 Yomim Tovim. So his Pesach is Keneged Avraham. Pesach corresponds to Avraham. Where do we see the connection between Pesach and Avraham? It's going to say Yitzchak is the level of Shavuos, but Pesach is Avraham. Kimesha Kosov. Pasuk says, Lushi Vasi Ugis, he told her to knead and make the cakes, and those were matzahs that they made. Those cakes were matzahs. But Shavuos Keneged Yitzchak. But Shavuos corresponds to Yitzchak. Why? Matan Torah B'Kel Shofar. Because the Matan Torah was done with a sound of the shofar, which is Neged Elishe Yitzchak. That corresponds to the ram of Yitzchak that substituted Yitzchak as the korban. So we have Avraham and Yitzchak. He's not talking about right now Yaakov. He's not talking about Sukkot. He's talking about just Avraham and Yitzchak. So Avraham hu Chesed. So Avraham is the level of Chesed. Shemisham Shoyresh, Shemisham Shoyresh HaMitzvahs. That's where the mitzvahs come from. They come from the level of Chesed. We learned before the Eich Sodim. That's the Shoyresh for the mitzvahs. Because how do we see the mitzvahs? Because Avraham is Gematria Ramach. Avraham is 248. When he changed his name from Avram to gave him also the hay, so he has now 248. And Hainu Ramach Pikud Ramach Ivorim. So that's the 248 mitzvahs, which are the 248 limbs. V'zo shemitchila nikra Avram. This is why in the beginning it was called Avram. Ba'achar kach. Then he got the hay, which is high no chesadim. Those are the hay chesadim. We learned before the hay chesadim of Zo sheheim sherish hamitzvahs. They the root of the mitzvahs, and they're kemaya the ashkeli ilono. That is like water that waters the tree. They come through the milah. That's the level of mitzvahs. Biur al posik hoye mispar bnei Yisrael. Those explains over there how the mitzvahs are mayim. Okay, so that's mayim chosadim versus Torah. Yitzchok Yitzchok represents the level of the supreme gevura. And also Yitzchok comes from the language of laughter and delight. Because in essence it comes from the level of gevura of atik. That's why Shavuos, which is from the level of Yitzchak, because corresponds, is a time Matan Torah. Why? Because also the level of Torah comes from this level of Adam. Level of Torah comes from the level of Keser, also from the level of Atik, from the level of Tainik. That's why that's why we come in the 10 sayings. It says Hadibur, say Lo Yisirtzach. What does it mean, Lo Yisirtzach? How do we translate? So Lo Yis Chaz V'Sholem, not to be, God forbid, Shreifich Dam Ha'odam Ba'odam Chulu K'Gor B'Mayla. You have the Zelum Azeh, he said you have the Odom of Kedusha, you have Odom the Klippa. Sometimes you pour the blood from the Odom the Kedusha, you give it to the Odom the Klippa, you give them the Yenika from them. That's Shreifich Dam Ha'odam Ba'odam. K'Gor B'Mayla is explained earlier. So Torah says Lo Yisirtzach, don't give away. The same Gamkin Inyan, the Nor Yecharev V'Yavish. The pasuk says that the river will be destroyed and dried out, and Chazal explained that Yecharev by Yisrishin, that during the first by Yisrishin, and it was destroyed and dried the Eshay, the Chuluk Canal. That means that dried out means that you left, you destroyed. In other words, that Odom of Kedusha was destroyed and given away to the Odom of Klippa. This is also the idea, Sheheru L'Titas. The Gemara says that they showed Titus, he stabbed the ark, the curtain of the Paraychas by the Kodesh Kedosh, and started to go out blood. You could see blood coming out. So what did they show this? What does it mean? They showed Titus, Shoyadam Mevatzes Yoises, Kedisa Begitim Beperik Hanizokim. So that shows you that you were pouring the blood. The same idea that the pasuk says, you're pouring the blood of Kedusha. When you give it to the Yenika, to the Klippa, because of the sins of the and the misdeeds of the Yidden, they cause pouring the blood and the energy of the holy, of the Odom of Kedusha, Dam HaOdom, Ba'odom into Odom the Klippa. Leitinov. Then you have Leitinov. This explains the Leisirzach. You have Leisirzach. First of all, you have Leisirzach. That's the explanation of Leisirzach. And then you have the next. What does Leitinov mean? Tinov means not to have a relationship with others besides Hashem. Not to. So you explain like this. There explains the idea. It says a person is obligated to provide his wife her food, her clothing, and also the time to be intimate with her. Those are the things. So he explains there everything in Kedusha. Says like this: She'edo. What does it mean when we say the food? That you have to give basically to the Eibishter, not to a mill. You have to give to the Eibishter. Remember, what does that mean? That's the energy that goes into the world in a inner way. So that's like food you consume, comes inside. That's the erpnimi. Then we have uksusa. You have to be mamshich. A yid has to be mamshich, the erpnimi. Ksusa, that's the malkulam. That's the surrounding of it. But also the surrounding of the inner. Because this is all that goes into the evolution of the Eberster in his kindness renews every day the Ma'aseh Bereshis. We always have to be mamshich, the sheir and the ksusa. What does it mean? The Eberster renews it. The Eberster renews them and vitalizes them and creates them. Why? Because if not, then everything would be bottled. The renewal is you renew them on the way and on the path the way they were. You didn't create any new hamshachas. There was nothing new. In other words, there was seviv and malakul amen. We say you got to continuously do that. But then there is a additional. You create a new. That's the time. That's to procreate. That's talking about intimacy. The hainu hamshachas chodesh mamish maslohoyo klal b'shtalshos oilus. You bring down a new light that wasn't at all as the world about. You bring down a new light, a new souls. To figure out who's this Maranash, what the Rosh Tevis is. But anyways, he has, it's a known, I'm trying to figure out the name of the author. The Agdom Baranash to Priyas Chaim. So it says, as Yesifu Oir, he says, then they add light. This addition is more than the principle. This is what it refers to. So that's a new created, a life created. That's the inosa. That's the third thing. Why did we describe this chodosh, giving an example of mating and union from, which is Moshel Gashim Moed, that it's a very physical example. We're bringing this for Hashem. Ein Shematam. Look the reason over there. On Shabbos, there's additional lights. They give a new gift, a new light that was never in the creation of Atzilus B'riya Atzilus. Which means there's a new energies coming to the world. They're not just renewing the old ones. That's what we call about it. That we say have a good gift. That says because a gift is something new. We never had every Shabbos. We get a new thing. That's why we daven the Musaf. There's additional kedusha that comes on Shabbos. The level of Sherik Susa Nimshach Michitzonis Davo. That comes from the externality of Ava'im. So that comes from Ava'im Chochma Bina Chitzonis. That's not the inner. That doesn't create new things. But no Nimshach Michinas Pnimis. And also Shamshach Zubom Maila Mailo Chodosh a new light which is Boyer Shom Soper Gdal. That's why the warning is loitinov. That's the word. Loitinov means not to have a relationship. Don't give this to the chitzonim. That means getting married to somebody else. This has to go into the world. The whole hamshachas has to come into the world. Say don't steal. Don't steal. No, don't cheat and don't steal. The That means, how do you do don't steal? That is, guard yourself from imagination, for overestimating yourself, your level. That's the Shav. This is just imaginary, in vain. Don't imagine that, oh, I've broken all the bad desires. It's really false. So what are you stealing? If you cheat and lie over here, then they steal from above, because you think that you're all done. That gives them opportunity to steal. As it says in Likutei Chaim at the end of the there it says, talks about the Jordan River, takes from one and gives to the other. Pasuk says the Elai Dover Yugunov. It also talks about stealing from one to the other. These imaginary things lead to theft. But what should the person do? Should see to it to break the taivas truly. And that way he will extend that we shouldn't steal above. The Posca timer showed in the beginning of Daite the Rabbi Baraisa that you're allowed to no, let's leave this already for them. I'll just look up that Gemara there. Okay. We're very late. We're very, very late, so let's